How are you? Thank you.
Kathy did say
Am I gonna attend? This is much easier.
those council people are putting a resolution to give themselves a big raise.
Good.
Yep.
All right. Want to welcome everybody. We'll call the MPO Coordinating Committee meeting to order. Thank you to everyone who is either attending in person or online. It's an important meeting today, and we appreciate everybody taking time out of their schedules to accommodate. We will have a hearing of the public now, but also I think after Courtney and Brian and the team maybe explain their requests, we'll certainly have an opportunity to answer questions or hearing of the public then as well. So with that being said, is there any public comment right now?
Yes, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Ed Kissel, I live in Erie, but I like to kind of depend on, we've been trying to get our Bayfront cleaned up of vegetation hanging over and also the sweepings, and they're down there today doing the sweepings and all, but I think they're a coordinating committee, and I think the city and the PennDOT could have coordinated where PennDOT could dump the waste that they're picking up, which is only 19 blocks away, instead of coming out 6 miles one way and back. So hopefully that can be coordinated between the city and PennDOT, so you're not wasting diesel fuel and man hours in doing that. But the cooperation has been great. And Brian throughout the Bayfront and the bridge going over the subject, so we may know all about that. But I'd like to thank everyone involved. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Ed. Any other public comment before we move on? Okay, item number 3 is a 2021 TIP amendment for the Bayfront Central Corridor. And we will need a vote on this. Emily, do you want to give a quick background and then we can turn it over to PennDOT for their for their request?
Sure.
Okay.
So the reason we're having this meeting is because this is a time-sensitive vote, and our next coordinating committee meeting would be in September. So that's a little too late. So we have to make a decision now. We could have done it as an e-ballot, but we all agreed at our last CAC meeting that it'd be better to do an actual meeting where we can have discussion and the public can be involved. So that's the reason we're here today. So thank you all for coming. And I'll turn it over to Courtney to explain the issues that are going on and the 10 million plus amendment that is needed for the Bayfront project.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. And thanks everybody for the special meeting. My part will be quick. I think that as this project has progressed over the last 5 years, if you had asked Tom and Courtney and Ron and I, if we expect to find ourselves in this position at this point in time, we would have predicted yes. And I guess obviously the situation with the prices that we're seeing, fuel prices, inflation, and the impacts on all of our costs only exacerbated that situation. But again, a reminder that this project is for the kind of projects that we put out, which is 70 to 90 projects a year. This is a once in a career type of project. It really falls into a totally separate category. So we do have to kind of take our blinders off and the way that we think about and look at these things. I know that at the TAC meeting last week, I don't know who all was there, but that it was presented, the increase that you all have seen. The news that I have to share with you today is that we have since got an updated estimate as of Friday of last week. That is yet again another increase on top of what you see here. So we don't love that situation. I would say, most of our work, again, 999 projects out of 1,000, maybe we don't see anything like this kind of increase close to the end of the project. It's extremely complex. It's extremely unique. It is a big project. It has serious traffic control implications It has unique structures. Of course, the pedestrian bridge at Holland is not something that you can just look at a price history like we can for a ton of an asphalt product or cubic yard of concrete or anything like that. It's totally in a ballpark all of its own. So many of you, if you were at the TAC meeting, you saw the information that we shared, which I think is consistent with what's printed out here for the handout. Courtney, nobody can explain this the way Courtney is, so I'm gonna turn it over to her here in a minute. But again, we expected to see increases as we approach the finish line. The climate that we're in right now has made that even a greater change than we've expected. But we still feel that this project that we've been investing in for 5 years, just that it's been in PE, let alone the planning and discussion that had gone into it for maybe decades prior to that, we still feel that this investment makes sense and it's the right thing to do. So I think that's all I wanted to say. If there's anything else I can add, I'll chime in, but Courtney, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, so the estimate that we received that we are currently working off of is a $61 million construction estimate that includes it includes everything but inspection and consultant
Consultation.
thank you, consultation. So when we take those two things together, we are looking at a project right now that our estimate is $66.4 million. On top of that, we finally have agreements with all of the different utilities that we are going to be needing for the project, as well as final costs that we will be needing for the rest of preliminary engineering items that are coming in, final design items that are coming in, and our right-of-way settlements. What we are presenting you today is to completely fund the entire project, all the way up to the $66 million in construction and everything for all of the pre-construction phases. When we talked last Wednesday, we discussed that we wanted to kind of look at a couple different options. The first option being what happens if we vote no today, that we are not going to move forward with this particular project. When we sat down and we looked at that, basically what we are looking at is we have $10 million that we have already, we have $10 million that we have put on the project for 2022. That $10 million cannot go to another project. We don't have projects in the region that we can put that money onto, so it will be forfeited. It hasn't been spent yet. Sorry, you have the Excel spreadsheet.
Yes, which Excel?
The Bayfront options, or no, Bayfront options Word document. Try that one.
Okay.
I've updated a couple numbers, but for the most part, it will give us everything we talked about.
Bayfront, I'm sorry, which
no,
one?
I didn't. Give them option one, no Bayfront. Okay, that's what you guys are going to be looking at is you're going to be looking at what the tip would look like if we removed the Bayfront. But the numbers that I need you guys to realize is $10 million we have in 2022. That $10 million will be forfeited. It cannot be spent anywhere else. On top of that, we would be losing the $21 million bill grant. We have $15 million that was awarded to us through the governor and the secretary of DCED that we would be forfeiting or we've spent. We have $23.3 million that we were awarded from the deputy secretary or from the secretary of transportation that would be forfeited. And we would potentially have to pay back 19.5 of that million. So the 10 million that we're losing on the current tip, on above and beyond that, we could potentially have to fund $19.5 million on the current tip to pay the feds back for the money that we've spent on the project to date. And then we also would be giving up the $2.5 million that the deputy secretary of multimodal has awarded to us for the Holland pedestrian bridge. So with that all being said, we regionally would be giving up $10.2 million. That's just off of the regional tip, what was allocated to us. And on top of that, we would potentially have to pay back $19.5 million from the regional tip in 2023. based on what we've spent, because we didn't take the project fully through construction. Okay, so that's option one.
Was build funding included in what you just discussed?
That we would be forfeiting it,
Okay, all right,
but not what we would have to pay back.
great, okay.
Okay. Now, what we also talked about at the time was that we were looking at a couple different options for funding. Best case scenario, all of the funding that we put on the 2021 TIP would, that was federal, would be obligated by our federal division down in central office. They would give us all of it this year, and we would get all of it back on the 2023 TIP. We've had multiple conversations since we met last Wednesday with just about everyone we possibly can down at central office. They put it as their #1 priority to fully fund all of the federal money that we are putting on the Bayfront on the current TIP, which means everything that we have that's federal funds on the Bayfront in 23, 24, 25, and 26 comes back to us October 1st. And that means that we can then advance projects or at least move them back to where we had hoped to let them before we started having this discussion. No matter what happens with that obligation authority, we are going to have to fund the state portion of the project using 100% state, 581, which is highway funds, and 185, which is bridge funds. Right now, we are looking at $15.1 million of state funds on the 2023 TIP that we will be putting towards the Bayfront. And if we can get the obligation authority by October 1st for the Bayfront, they would be giving us $15 million back on the 23 TIP. So it would be a wash. Now, what I can tell you is before we had about $10 million programmed. So we're looking at an increase of $5 million on the 2023 TIP if we get obligation authority. The big question everybody has is what projects would be delayed if we needed to fund these on the TIP. So right now we're going to talk about the paving projects. As of this morning, because we do have structures that are going on the Bayfront, including the separated crossing at the grade separation at State and the Bayfront. We have the bridge, the pedestrian bridge at Holland and the retaining walls. We can use bridge money on those. That's what we've been looking at adding to this last increase, as much bridge money as we can. I don't have the full list of what bridges we might have to defer, but I figured that the more important thing was what highway projects we might possibly have to defer. The ones I can tell you we are not deferring is US 20 from Chestnut to Imperial Highway. We'll be letting the first quarter of 2023. It does have a $1.7 million increase from our last estimate. It's fully funded in the first few years of the TIP. We are also going to be letting on time 531 Depot Road Section 2. It has an $8.5 million price tag right now, which is actually $4.25 million more than what we had originally planned at the beginning of this year. That will be funded also going in the first quarter of 2023. 3006 from 90 to 3003. There was a potential for this year. It's letting in the first quarter of 2023. The Bayfront Parkway at 6th Street, the safety improvement project. It has not been delayed because of the Bayfront. It was delayed because of some other issues we were having with the railroad. And it's going to be going in the first quarter of 2023 at $3.3 million. And Zook Road is going in October. It received a $3.38 million increase. Most of that was covered by central office with each TIP. Funds that they gave to us above and beyond what we have on the TIP. And so that's going to be at about 10 million. Those 5 projects are still going by the first quarter of 2023. They are not going to be delayed. So the projects that could potentially be late if we do not get obligation authority would be SR 8 from Arbuckle to Phillips Road. Could be delaying that from 2026 to 2027. 19 from 90 to Rotunda Drive would be going from 2024 construction to 2025. 19 from Dorn to Robinson would be going from a 2026 let to a 2027 let. Then we have two projects on 20, one going from Shiley Road to Harbor Creek. It would be delayed 1 year to 2027. And then West Hartsel Road to the New York line would be going in 2027 instead of 2022. The projects that right now look like they're definitely going to be delayed no matter what, hopefully by only 1 year, would be the two projects that are going to be happening in Torrey on 4/26, 2020 and 2029, and then 77. The reason the both be delayed is because we are letting them together to try to get the best price for the project. And so it'd be better if we could delay both of them instead of letting one and then letting the other one the next year. As a part of this, we are asking to remove the safety line item from the TIP to use that $250,000 towards this project instead into the 4 years of the TIP. On top of this, we also are putting forth as part of this amendment, paying for the light that is going to be placed at Bayfront and Cranberry. Starting design October 1st of this year with construction happening in 2024. It could let as early as next October for that. Let me see if I forgot anything. I gave a lot of projects and a lot of data, and I've spent five days looking at it. So it is not easy to put it on paper so that anyone can understand what it is. The way our FC charts look, the fact that I have to move money from one project to another project and then move money back to the project in order to line everything up. Right now, we're looking at 7 pages for this amendment on the 2023 TIP. So I don't know exactly the best way to be able to provide it to everyone on paper. What I want to do is to open it up. So if anyone has any questions on any projects, we can talk about it. If you have any questions about long-term issues that we might see on projects because of this, best case, worst case scenarios, I wanted to open it up and make sure that there was no one that walked out of here and didn't completely understand what we are asking and what the benefit of the ask is. So.
And if I could just reinforce something that Courtney mentioned, and I just want to make sure people understand it, the best case scenario that she discussed. Just this morning, I got to have a phone call with Deputy Secretary of Planning, Larry Shiflett. He confirmed exactly what Courtney said, which is that this project is high on their priority list. If you don't understand the obligation authority that she mentioned, at the end of the federal fiscal year, which is coming here soon, October 1st is the start of the new, that department in PennDOT looks at everything from a statewide perspective and makes sure that we use all of the federal funds that we have available to us as a state. And it's known as our obligation authority. So what Courtney's exercise here is showing is we have to show on the current TIP, the 2021 TIP, which is just about coming to an end, she has to show the project as fully funded, even if that's over the course of 4 or 5 years in this case.
So that's 2026.
Okay. So what that means is best case scenario, and Larry assured me today they will do everything that they can to help this project. That means that just so you understand, they will cover everything that they can on those years, those further out years from right now. And it's possible that they could cover all of those federal funds. It's possible that they could only cover a portion of them, or maybe not much at all. But he was confident that they would be able to help us. So we don't have a number. So what that means is the option that she needs to show shows a fair amount of damage and projects deferred, but the reality that we expect to happen is for that federal money to be covered within the next, we would know the answer to that within the next month and a half or so.
Well, yeah, once we submit
Okay,
this, we should know pretty quickly after
Okay.
that. Much to be able to.
so if he's able to, if they're able to cover a significant portion of those monies that we show in the out years, then the impact is much less extreme than what we just discussed. So it's that's kind of, I think, why, as you're saying, it's hard to show on paper. You have to show the true, damage that this would cause if we have to pay for it as we're showing. But we do think that there's money available at a statewide level that will be able to significantly ease the pain. And again, that's just taking advantage of that, and then helping us in that way is just more federal money coming to the Erie region that it wouldn't have seen otherwise. So this is just another mechanism, another opportunity for that to happen. But we do all have to vote on this, in a way that we understand that that's not guaranteed. So there could be project impacts. I just want to make sure that part's clear, because I think it's confusing.
Yes, it's, I don't know how many of you guys were online last Wednesday. I used a checkbook kind of discussion where I have one checking account that's closing on September 30th, and I have a new checking account that is opening on October 1st. I have to show that I have enough money in the one that's closing on September 30th and enough on the one that's opening on October 1st. So that we can put the project across the finish line. What's important is not necessarily what I'm showing on the one closing on September 30th. For you guys, it's the one that I'm opening on October 1st, because that's the one that we voted on in June to move forward with as a 2023 TIP. And it is the one that is really where the money could either come back and help us, or we may potentially have to pay out for the project. I truly believe, without guaranteeing, because we cannot, that we are going to see a majority of that federal funds be obligated. I mean, as many conversations as I have had, they are going to do what they can to help us get this project across the finish line. They are dedicated to seeing it through. But until we actually vote and move forward, can't make any guarantees. But we'll know by October 1st. When I start my new checkbook, I will know how much money I have going into it.
So this is Derek. I wasn't at the meeting last week, so
Questions about how any of it works, about the questions that I talked about.
so this is Derek. I wasn't at your meeting last week. Sorry about that. So can you tell me what?
More information.
Yeah, so
If we do get the obligation authority, if we do get all of the federal funds we're asking for, which is about $15 million, they give it to us and then we come back. In October, we are going to be looking at what do we do with $15 million that I've moved off. The potential for that is some of the projects, such as the two projects that we would be delaying in Corey, which are the ones that we have at least gone through scoping for. And some of the other ones, we could potentially move them up. We may have to federalize them because that's the money that I will have. The reason it's being delayed is because it's state funds that are paying for the 426 project. So there are other options. We will be. In the last 5 days, I have done a TIP that finishes out 2021 with a $66 million now construction price tag on the project. I've redone the 2023 TIP with the idea that we have to fully fund 100% of the project. And then best case scenario is in a week or two, I have to go back and redo the TIP again with all of our federal money and give it back to us. So it's been fun. Concerns, questions?
the question I have is, what do you
Dave, do you
recommend?
have any, being, one of the municipalities that, may be affected with the delays in that, and
We've been in this discussion for over a year now. So this has not been a surprise. What has happened is, of course, the escalation of inflation has added something. But just assessing 426 and the projects in Ford, they're not critical at the moment. as far as the drivability on the roads. And if we can see, maybe over this period of time, we'll catch a hold of the inflationary spiral and some of these costs will go down. That's always a gamble, but and I think the economy of scale that you're talking about to do those projects together is a good thing. And I do believe also the other thing is we all have to think of the county as a whole. We all represent or live in part of the county. But the county as a whole is the economic generator for the jobs, for the shopping, for all the different services that we have. And we cannot divorce ourselves from the city of Erie. In Corey, we've always considered Erie as a partner. When Erie is healthy, the county is healthy. We have many times stepped up to support Erie, but they've also stepped up to support Corey. And I have always appreciated that. And other municipalities have stepped up to help us also at different times. And I think this is a project that is massive in scope, really, as far as the future of the Bayfront, which is going to be an economic generator for the whole county. Probably so all of us through that revitalization. Thank you.
I think Derek is trying to speak on Zoom. I'm not sure, we're having some technical issues. I'm not hearing anything come through the echo. Matt, do you know if there's some issue with Zoom members?
They muted.
While they're working on trying to get Derek to be able to speak. The other thing I wanted to point out is the fact that it is not uncommon for us as we get into design of projects to move from one construction season to another construction season. It could be the fact that we were looking at letting a project in the middle of the summer of 25, and now we'll be looking at letting it first quarter of 2026. Construction is still going to be starting at about the exact same time. It just is how we cash flow things. So some of those may not be, even though they're all one construction season delay, in the end, when design comes through, it may not end up being that much more of a delay than we would have seen on the current tip as it stands.
No. I think early on also in discussions, probably before COVID, industry was really, stating how much this project was needed, Erie Insurance, Hammett, Gannon, St. Vincent's. And Brian, I'm sure you probably had more contact with them in the last year or two. I'm assuming that is still the sentiment that this is a vital, project for them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the stakeholders in this project are really what make it so different than all the others is that, most of the time we're paving roads and replacing bridges. The importance of this, the priority of it that put it as first on the long range plan, however many years ago that has not changed the slightest bit in any conversation that we've been a part of with any of the stakeholders. It's still every conversation that I'm in, what I hear is the Bayfront, that this is the priority, that it needs to be, that it's a keystone to all the other things that are going on in the area north and south of the highway.
Great. I mean, I feel more comfortable than I did last Wednesday, just, to hear a little bit more drill down of it about projects that, like you just explained, be let in, October of one year really isn't going to happen until the following year anyways. Is there any other questions or? Yes,
Does this
Bill.
gonna affect the I-90 rebuild that's going on?
Nope,
Okay.
not at all.
That's my question.
Good question.
All right, Derek, can you try to talk again? I think we resolved the computer issue, but let's see.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, no, it's not working.
Hold on, let me-
Yeah.
one more thing.
Any idea of that?
Can you hear any of us on Zoom?
Funny, I can seem to hear everybody.
All right, Derek.
Yeah,
you
we
try
can hear
again?
each other. They just can't hear us.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Wait, there we go. One more time.
Testing, 1, 2.
All
Testing.
right, I
Gotcha.
can hear you.
Right.
Uh, I'm not sure what the problem. So I guess I'm trying to understand what is the ask? And the only other comment I have is because there's so much federal funding out there, there's bills 1, 2, and 3. There's all sorts of acts. A lot of communities, I don't think it's as advanced as this community with regards to having their ducks in a row. So some of those communities are going to lose those funds, and those funds, from my understanding, go back into a pot that can be dispersed to other communities on top of their game. So I think if the ask is to move forward with this, with the commitment from the different organizations to make this a priority, I think we're in a good situation that this is going to happen with those federal dollars being part of the solution.
So our ask is a vote for the amendment on the 2021 TIP, which I will be sending out to everybody, just so that you guys have a copy of it after the meeting today. What we will do is we will wait to find out how much of that federal funds are obligated before we ask for the 23 vote. Just so that way then we don't vote and then have to vote again. And that way then everyone's not confused as to what the final 2023 numbers will look like. Just know that if we vote yes for the 2021, we are voting for what we talked about on the 23 TIP as worst case scenario.
Do you need a motion?
Yeah, we're looking for a motion.
So move.
Is there discussion? Do I have a second? We have a second?
I'll second. Looks like you guys got muted again.
Sorry. How about now?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right,
Okay,
we'll call for a vote then. All in favor of the TIP amendment to the 2021 TIP?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. You'll stay in touch with us, Courtney and Brian, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Next meeting of the TAC is September 14th. I do want to mention, real quick, I want to recognize County Executive Davis was able to join us. Thank you for being here. Also, we need to bid farewell to Brenda Sandberg, who is will not be participating in the MPO meetings anymore, but best wishes to you as well. Thank you for everything you've done for us.
thank you.
I think we should also, commend Courtney and Brian and Ron. Yeah, well done.
And
Yes, and Tom, I'm sorry, and Tom at the end of the table there as well. I think it shows that the good working relationship and, then the trust as well, that we all have together, working together to advance Erie County. So well done by all. Thank you very much. And
well, there is a meeting. There is a Bayfront public meeting coming up.
Yes.
That I did put the
When is
flyers
that?
out.
Yes.
It's Wednesday.
yeah, next Wednesday, August 24th, there's an open house at the Port Authority from 3 to 7, and it is an online virtual tour from 5 to 6. So For those municipalities that can, maybe spread the word on your Facebook pages or something like that to your residents and try to get as much participation as we can on that meeting. With that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion.
So moved. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your participation today.
Thank you.
Second.